So let's just examine the two quarterbacks last night. So Greg Cosell said this week, he said, Wentz is a little Favre, that he's a playmaker. And, he's glorious when he's good, but he holds the ball a little long. There's a lot of jump balls. And do you think that's an accurate description? Kind of, there's some Favre qualities, but it can worry you as a coach.
Yeah, 100%. The things that you love about him are the things that you hate about him. And you saw it last night where he makes something happen and there's some great plays, and then he throws the pick right before halftime. And that's been pretty consistent throughout the course of the season. You love his toughness and the way that he'll absorb hits to get the ball off. He'll run with the ball and lower his shoulder. That's great. But what have we seen? We've seen a track record of him getting injured, and that's problematic as well. So you're trying to not take the positive, the upside of him taking chances out of his game, but you don't want to start losing games. And there's been a bunch of times where those turnovers have led to losses more so than the huge upside.
So in New York, many believe there's a decision to be made if they could get a shot at Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence with Daniel Jones. Weigh in on what you've seen and what you saw last night with the young kid.
Well, with Daniel Jones, there's a lot to be encouraged about. I think he's smart. I think he's improved. I think he makes good decisions overall with the ball, and you see that his touchdown to interception ratio, especially last year, was good. And that's a little bit different than what you get from Sam Darnold, where it's more of a 50-50 touchdown to interception. He was almost double last year. The issue I have with him, though, are the turnovers in general. You're talking about 20 games and 32 turnovers. So he's holding the ball too long, and that's translating into fumbles. And that's a problem. It's another one of those areas, just like we talked about with Wentz. Can you coach him out of that? That never happens with Brady or Peyton Manning, because they know it's not worth it to hold it for the extra second and chance, the turnover.
Yeah. So I was saying is, if you look since the beginning of last year, if you just took Derek Carr's name out of it and I showed you the numbers, you'd be like, oh, passer rating is like 110, 32 touchdowns, 9 picks, 71% completions. And this week, Gruden now and Derek Carr have beaten the Breeze and the Saints, Mahomes and the Chiefs. And if they beat Brady and the Bucks, we're all going to have to, summarily say, okay, it's the real deal. And I've said this for years. There's a Romo quality to him where he doesn't have Tony's kind of let it rip mentality, but there's something about him. He's got good feet. He makes plays. I just look at the numbers, Eric, in the last year and a half. They're really good. I like Derek Carr.
Well, it's not just the last year and a half. What was it, 2016? He's in the conversation for MVP before he gets hurt. I think it was like 28 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. And you look at him since he's gotten together with John, and he's gotten better every year in almost every category: completion percentage, quarterback rating, sacks, interceptions or touchdowns to interceptions. There's significant progress, and he strikes me as a guy that maybe when Gruden came in was a little bit uncomfortable, wasn't used to that style of coaching. But now that they've gotten an understanding, and he understands not only the system but also the play caller and the head coach, you're seeing that progress, you're seeing that growth, and really you're seeing the player that we have seen historically. It's not like he's never played really, really well.
Yeah. So you live in Cleveland, and
yes.
So they go out and they get just boat raced, and Odell's yappy, and Baker says I don't listen to the media, and they say, oh, it feels like 0-6, and I'm like, you're 4-2, it's a loss. Give me an update on the Browns this morning, your vibe, how you feel about where they're at going forward.
Well, when I saw that clip, I thought of the Mae West rule, where if you have to tell someone you're a lady, then you're not. So if you have to tell everybody that you're not annoyed, then obviously you are annoyed. And winning is something that you have to get used to, just like overcoming losses is something you have to get used to, and that the pressure's on. And you felt that in the Steelers game, where it's self-inflicted pressure with with him, where he's forcing the ball on the slant early in the game. A little bit later in the game, he rolls out and throws the ball up for grabs. He doesn't have to do that, and to some degree, he's got to just manage the games. They've got a good enough running game. They're competitive enough defensively that just don't put the team behind the eight ball. Yeah. And then don't get mad at everybody for commenting on how you're doing.
That's a reality. So, okay, last week I said, so when Cam played New England, I was kind of like, all right, that works. They don't have any speed, but it works. And now I've seen 5 different quarterbacks have huge games against Seattle, and I'm like, okay, I need a second Cam game to work. I don't put it all on him. There's the COVID stuff. They literally don't have. They're a slow wide receiving core. So let's weigh in on Cam today. I think he has to play well against San Francisco, but where are you at with Cam and Belichick and the Patriots?
Yeah, no one was more skeptical than I was with Cam Newton working in New England. I didn't know if he'd even make the roster based off of personality fit, based off of whether or not he would do the things that they would ask him to do, where he was health-wise. So he comes in the first game of the season, and they run a bunch of quarterback-driven runs, and really effective quarterback-driven runs, and it puts him in a position where he's got to carry the ball. I think it was the second highest career total ever at that point. So they come back the next week against Seattle, and because of that, it opened up a ton of things in the passing game. And unlike Lamar, Cam is a more efficient passer at this point. Now, fast forward, they're trying to figure out what balance of those quarterback-driven runs and the pressure that puts on people they're going to use versus how much they want him as a traditional passer. And I don't think that's been figured out. In terms of the last game, I'm going to give him a COVID bye for that, because there's been a lot of good stuff, and a lot more good stuff than I ever anticipated from him. So I don't think we can say at this point it's not working. I think they just need to figure out what that balance is.
But by the way, we were thinking about this. I said this week, I think Dallas is in a rebuild. They just won't admit it. And they're very good at wide receiver. I would move a Michael
Don't
Gallup.
Tell Jerry that.
I know. Well, I would move a Michael Gallup and get draft picks. You got Amari, you got Cedric Wilson, you got CeeDee Lamb. You're fine at receiver. You're not fine anywhere else. When you deal with the Cowboys, Jerry's the de facto GM, right? Like most of the time, Eric, you're with the Jets or Browns, you could call a general manager. With Dallas, do you call Jerry Jones? If you wanted to do a deal with Dallas, is it more difficult?
Well, yes and no. They have people that will talk about potential deals, but ultimately the owner is going to make the decision. I think the tough thing, or the tough dynamic that creates in Dallas is the GM's never getting fired there. And the players that they bring in, those decisions are always going to be looked at as right. And oftentimes when those players don't work out and maybe they aren't the right fit, it usually falls on the coach. They couldn't get rid of Jason Garrett, quick enough last year. And now, there's this discontent with the coaching staff. It's a hard dynamic when the owner is the GM. Now, it can be really easy to get deals done because you don't have to go through a lot of channels. There's one guy, but it's a really hard dynamic for an organization.
By the way, I saw this week, Mike McCarthy, some leaks in the media, players calling out, the coaching staff. Were you ever in your career as a head coach? Were there ever leaks? What do you do with that?
Yeah, but there's true leaks, and then there's agents of disgruntled players.
Right. So
a player may be frustrated with his play time. He may be frustrated with his role, and he complains to his agent, and then the agent puts it out that the whole team is dissatisfied with the coaching staff. They don't know what they're doing. But come on, Mike McCarthy's been coaching, I think, 31 years. Mike Nolan's been coaching 39 years. To say that they're not competent, that they don't know what they're doing, it's silly, and I don't think it's player driven. And if it is, those players are weak. You have an opportunity to walk in and talk to the head coach and express your concerns. And if you don't feel comfortable there, you can talk to the captains. And if you don't feel comfortable there, because the owner is the GM and very involved, you can go talk to Jerry. And to deal with it through the media, it's just at this early stage, if it's a player, it'd be ridiculously disappointing.
Eric Mangini, have a great weekend, boss. Good seeing you.
All right, good seeing you too.
All right, good stuff. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.